The Globe highlighted the team's symbolic significance. Today, we sit down with an expert to talk about the Olympics and global affairs surrounding the Korean Peninsula. But first, let's go over to the News Center for the latest headlines at this hour. Devin, good afternoon.
Hi, Don. Well, with the apparent improvement of ties between the two Koreas, the hope in Seoul has been that this will lead to talks between North Korea and the United States. No concrete sign of that happening yet, but U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, who was just in South Korea for the Winter Olympics, has reportedly said Washington is open to dialogue with the North. Park So-yeon reports.
The U.S. government is said to be willing to sit down for talks with North Korea. The opportunity was reached after an understanding between the White House and President Moon Jae-in during U.S. Vice President Mike Pence's visit for the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. Pence says South Korea and the U.S. agreed to further engage in talks with North Korea, possibly following inter-Korean talks. The U.S. will continue its policy of maximum pressure and continue to impose harsh sanctions on North Korea, but at the same time be open to talks without preconditions. Pence told the Washington Post that South Korea and the U.S. will pursue a policy of maximum pressure and engagement at the same time. This marks an important change from the previous U.S. stance, which was focused mainly on maximum pressure and confirming Pyongyang's determination for denuclearization. Pence added the pressure campaign will intensify, but the Trump administration is open to talks if the regime shows a willingness to do so. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said on Monday that it's too early to judge whether the latest developments represent the start of a new diplomatic process. Speaking in Cairo on Monday, Tillerson added it's up to North Korea to decide the time to engage in meaningful and serious talks with the U.S.
It's too early to judge. As we've said for some time, it's really up to the North Koreans to decide when they're ready to engage with us in a sincere way, a meaningful way. They know what has to be on the table for conversations. We've said for some time that I think it's important that we're going to need to have some discussions that precede any form of negotiation.
During his recent trip to Northeast Asia, Pence announced that the U.S. would soon unveil its toughest ever sanctions on North Korea that may include maritime interdiction and a naval blockade. With the apparent shift in U.S. policy, watchers are hopeful for a significant breakthrough in bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. Park So-yeon, Arirang News.
The International Olympic Committee says its president Thomas Bach will soon make the short trip from PyeongChang, the South Korean host city of the 2018 Winter Games, to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. It'll happen shortly after the curtain comes down on the Olympics. IOC spokesman Mark Adams said Monday that Bach was invited by the North Koreans during talks between the two Koreas last month, mediated by the IOC, during which the North confirmed its participation in the Games. The spokesperson said the visit was agreed as part of the deal for North Korea to take part and that all parties concerned, namely South and North Korea, welcomed the invitation. He added that they're still discussing a convenient date for the trip. The PyeongChang Winter Olympics come to a close on February 25th. Now, a lot of us have been engrossed in watching the Winter Olympics, so it's easy to forget all the work needed to win the right to host the Games in the first place. PyeongChang 2018 is the conclusion of a tireless campaign stretching back almost 15 years. Fortunately, that campaign was recorded in pictures along the way. Our Won Jung-hwan reports from a special photo exhibition in Gangneung.
The opening ceremony of a sports photo exhibition has held at Gangneung City Hall on Monday to commemorate the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics. The exhibition, jointly hosted by the Korea Sports Press Union and the International Sports Press Association, is being held under the theme of the best moments of the IOC, ANOC, and Korea sports history. The president of the International Sports Press Association explained why he thinks the exhibition is important.
Especially in the moment of digital life, the photos are very important. And through this photo, there is an history how PyeongChang became a capital of sport for a while after the experience that you have had in 1988 in Seoul.
The exhibition documents South Korea's remarkable journey to host PyeongChang 2018 since its very first bid, all the way back in 2004. While PyeongChang lost in the final rounds of voting to Vancouver and Sochi for the 2010 and 2014 Games, it was third time lucky for PyeongChang in Durban in 2011. Jong-un, the North Korean representative to the IOC, expressed his appreciation for a fascinating look back at time.
The exhibition portrays photographer Kim Min-jae's lifelong work. It's a touching catalog of an important period of Korea's history. I hope you take care of it well.
Chang also said he was touched by the joint march of Korea's athletes at the opening ceremony of the Olympics. The Gangneung exhibition tops off what has been a remarkable 14-year-long journey of determination for PyeongChang, which picked itself up despite 2 setbacks and is now showing the world why it was the right choice for the 2018 Olympics.
People say 3rd time's a charm. PyeongChang has won the bid to host the Winter Games on its 3rd attempt. Although the 57 photos of this exhibition cannot show the whole of PyeongChang's remarkable Olympic journey, it will give visitors a glimpse of effort and dedication needed to bring the Winter Games to this corner of Korea. Jong-un, Arirang News, Gangneung.
And with just a couple of days to go until the Lunar New Year holiday, or Seollal, President Moon Jae-in is calling on the government to make sure the Korean people can enjoy a happy and peaceful long weekend. The president, for the first time, held his cabinet meeting this morning via video conferencing, since some of his ministers were away in the city of Sejong. President Moon urged the government to take all measures necessary to make the holiday starting this Thursday safe, especially by supporting the socially vulnerable, such as small business owners and children living in poverty. He also called for an overall checkup on safety measures to prevent accidents like the recent deadly fires in public facilities. The president also stressed to his ministers the importance of integrity in the public sector and asked them to take measures throughout the year to fight corruption. The North Korean cheering squad, who've got a lot of press since they arrived last week, are getting their first tour around one of the Olympic host cities, Gangneung. The North Koreans left their hotel in Inje at around 10:30 Tuesday morning, heading to their first destination, Gyeongpo Beach, where dozens of spectators and reporters were waiting to catch a glimpse of them. The cheerleaders didn't respond much to the reporters' questions, saying simply that it was nice to be out, and they jokingly complained that it's hard to enjoy the view with the reporters in their way. Having had lunch at a local convention center, the North Koreans are now touring the Ojukan House, where one of Korea's famous scholars was born. I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has pledged to carry on the positive momentum from the Olympics and continue towards reconciliation with South Korea. The North Korean leader is said to have expressed these thoughts while welcoming back the delegation that had been sent to the South for the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. Our Kwon Jang-ho has more on that.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un welcomed back the high-level delegation that he had sent to the South for the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. According to North Korean state media reports, he said he was satisfied with the outcomes of their trip and also expressed gratitude towards South Korea for hosting them. Moreover, he stated his desire to continue improving inter-Korean relations. He said it's important to continue making good results by further livening up the warm climate of reconciliation and dialogue created by the Winter Olympics as a momentum. He's also said to have given important instructions to take practical measures for it. The delegation was led by the North's nominal head of state, Kim Yong-nam, and Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong. They returned to Pyongyang on Monday after a 4-day trip, during which they met with President Moon Jae-in a number of times and delivered Kim's invitation to visit the North. President Moon said in response that he hoped the right conditions are met so that such a visit could go ahead. North Korean state media also reported on Tuesday that Kim welcomed back the arts troupe that had been sent to the South as well. He congratulated them on their successful performances and thanked them for conveying the warm mind of the North Korean people who wish for a successful Winter Olympics as well as reconciliation. It was also said to have been pleased that the South Korean people as well as President Moon responded warmly to the troops' performances. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
And to talk more about the Olympics and global affairs surrounding the Korean Peninsula, we're joined by Dr. Woo Jung-yup, a research fellow at the Sejong Institute. Thank you, Dr. Woo, for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
So the joint Korean women's ice hockey team is garnering a lot of attention from within and outside of Korea. And although they lost kind of big to Sweden last night, still many point out the team's symbolic significance. Could you start us off by telling us a bit more about the team's significance?
To explain the meaning of making joint women's ice hockey team is I can explain the past history on united team between North and South Korea. Very surprisingly, there are only 2 occasions that North and South agreed to make a joint team to compete in international arena. It was 1991, 27 years ago, that North and South agreed to make a joint table tennis team to compete in Japan. And another one is also in 1991 to compete in a Youth World Soccer Cup. So there are many occasions that North and South try to make a joint team to compete in international sports games, but it was only 2 occasions, though there are several occasions that Korean athletes and North Korean athletes entered the opening ceremony under a unified flag. So it is that difficult one. So it is meaningful this time that North and South agreed to make a united team. Even though there was a controversy that some South Korean players had to sacrifice their entry to enter the game. But we have to admit that this kind of small openings between North and South can be a huge impact on Korean Peninsula.
So it is a very rare and meaningful opportunity. North Korea's cheerleading squad is also under the spotlight. We could see them during last night's match, rooting for the unified Team Korea. But some also criticize that they're only here for North Korea's propaganda purposes. Your thoughts?
So it is true that North Korea's cheering squad, as well as their performers coming to South Korea this time, are all for the propaganda for North Korea's regime. And also it is true that how Korean public view those cheering squad and performers are very different from the past experience. However, even though we have to, it is true that they're coming to South Korea this time is for their propaganda purpose. South Korean public is mature enough to distinguish what their purpose or how the exchange between the people-to-people level between 2 Koreas making history this time. So I think that it is true that North Korea wants to take advantage of this opportunity to propaganda, but South Korean public is mature enough to know that.
Now, President Moon Jae-in's photo appeared for 2 straight days on Nodongshinmun, a daily newspaper run by the North's Communist Party. How do you interpret that?
North Korea's participation in PyeongChang Olympic Game is started off by Kim Jong-un's New Year's address this year. So for North Koreans, it is important that PyeongChang Olympic is successful only because Kim Jong-un sent his athletes and other delegations to South Korea, and they also have to tell their people, see that that's why South Korean President Moon Jae-in and the government people welcome the delegations from North Korea. So that is why North Korea's government newspaper show the pictures of our government and how their delegations are well received by Korean government and Korean people.
Now, President Moon Jae-in is reportedly taking things slow, taking a very cautious approach to inter-Korean relations after holding meetings with North Korea's head of state Kim Yong-nam as well as leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong. But what kind of follow-up measures do you expect to their historic meetings?
I think it is very wise for President Moon Jae-in to show that this considerate measure to when he heard from Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader, delivered the verbal message to President Moon Jae-in that Kim Jong-un invite President Moon Jae-in to North Korea. President Moon Jae-in mentioned during the New Year's press conference on January 9th this year that he can have a summit with Kim Jong-un when the conditions are right, under the right conditions, and when he can guarantee the outcomes out of the summit. So he already mentioned the 2 conditions for the summit. And also the international community has been taking very hardline pressure to North Korea because of their series of provocations and nuclear and missile tests. So South Korean government is not free from those international communities' pressure. And we are the targets of North Korea's missile and nuclears. So that is why I think that President Moon Jae-in has taken very serious and considerate step to respond to the invitation of North Korea's summit.
Now, it was confirmed on Monday that Chinese President Xi Jinping's special envoy Han Zheng also met with North Korea's ceremonial head of state Kim Yong-nam, but not much detail is revealed yet. What do you think were likely discussed?
It is too early to speculate what kind of dialogue that the two people have. But Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs today revealed that Han Zheng, he is a member of Politburo Standing Committee of the Communist Party of China. He has a long title, right? And he met with the ceremonial leader of North Korea, Kim Yong-nam, this time. But when Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs described the meeting, they used the term jiaotan, which means more of a casual chat. So they don't use the term like discussion or dialogue. So I think it might be they just encounter and they have some casual chat. But considering that thorny relations between two countries currently, that I think any dialogue, any form of dialogue between the high-ranking officials between two governments is meaningful. So we don't know yet the details of the so-called casual chat this time, but we can find maybe in the later that what North Korea wants from China or what China wants from North Korea.
Now, according to U.S. media outlets, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, on his way back to the U.S., signaled the possibility of Washington-Pyongyang talks. Could there be a change in North Korea's strategy at the White House?
During his interview, going back to Washington, D.C., that he mentioned that he's going to continue the maximum pressure and engagement. And because the Vice President Pence, while he was staying in Korea for PyeongChang Olympic Games, he mostly focused on pressure rather than engagement. That is why the reporter of this interview mentioned that there might be some change in White House approach to North Korea. But in the context, I think Vice President Pence said in principle that if North Korea wants to have a dialogue with North Korea, which means that if North Korea has changed their mind, which means that North Korea shows some seriousness in talking the denuclearization of North Korea, then United States is ready to engage North Korea. So I really don't think that the Vice President Pence's interview this time shows any change in U.S. approach to North Korea, but it's more reiterated of their principle in dealing with North Korea.
So no dramatic changes, and they are probably expecting North Korea to show some serious actions, some promising actions first, and then they can hold talks with
so there is no indication that North Korea is interested in talking with the United States yet. So if there's any indication, and if United States sees that North Korea is serious enough to talk with the United States, then I'm sure that United States is going to engage with North Korea.
First daughter of the United States, Ivanka Trump, will also visit South Korea for the Olympics closing ceremony. Do you think President Moon Jae-in will hold a one-on-one with her? And if yes, what will they talk about?
Since Ms. Ivanka Trump is going to come to South Korea to represent the United States, and so even though her official position in White House is not high enough to meet our president one-on-one, but her relations with her father, and also she represents the U.S. delegation to our closing ceremony, there's still a chance that our president meet her one-on-one. But considering that her relations, considering her influence and relations on her father, that maybe our president can deliver some message through her to the President Trump.
What do you think North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was trying to achieve the most by sending her sister Kim Yo-jong to South Korea? And do you think he's achieved that goal?
We don't know yet the true intention of Kim Jong-un sending the delegation of North Korea this time to South Korea and also participating in PyeongChang Olympic Games. Some argue that it's because of the pressure that he got from the international community, or some just say that it's just a part of their long-term strategy. But anyway, the one thing that he want to achieve is that he want to make inter-Korea relations without denuclearization. So now South Korean government want to improve the inter-Korean relations, but there is no serious progress in the talks of denuclearization. So I think that in some part, Kim Jong-un achieved what he wants because he can show the image of that he wants to improve the inter-Korea relations, but without any mentioning of nuclear problems of North Korea.
Seoul's defense ministry today said that no details have been fixed yet on the inter-Korean military talks that was agreed upon by the two Koreas. Do you think the talks can be realized, and how soon?
Typically, the military talks between North and South is proposed by North Korea in the past because the military talks is not about the strategic issues. It's for the loudspeakers or the minor skirmishes in the DMZ. So when there is no such issues, that there has no military talks between two governments. And we wanted to have military talks before the Olympic Games because any small skirmishes on DMZ might cause some problems for safety of the Olympic Games. But without that, that there is no strong need to hold the military talks with North Korea. So I think it's very natural that we don't have to hurry on military talks with North Korea this time.
Okay, one last question for you. As we just saw in our piece, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said that he wants to take this Olympics momentum and carry on this reconciliatory atmosphere. But that obviously doesn't mean that North Korea is willing to give up its nuclear development. Then how long can the friendly atmosphere can last when they're not willing to give up their nuclear development?
So we have to see what he's going to demand to South Korea and the United States. As we all know that the joint military exercise between Korea and the United States has been postponed after the PyeongChang Olympic Games. And that's one reason that we believe why North Korea participated this time. So to continue the talks between two Koreas, North Korea might demand South Korea to postpone once again the joint military exercise. So if he demands the postpone of the military exercise, and if he puts many strings to have continuous talk with North Korea, then United States and probably our government will think that North Korea is not serious enough to improve the inter-Korea relations. So we have to wait and see that how North Korea is, what North Korea is going to demand to continue the talks with South Korea and perhaps with the United States.
Tough challenges ahead.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wu, for coming in today.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our show today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you right here, same time tomorrow.